Hello and welcome to today's webinar on the Bayesia Expert Knowledge Elicitation Environment. Thank you for joining us for today's event. My name is Stefan Conradi and I will be co-hosting today's seminar along with my colleague Dr. Lionel Jouff, who is joining us from his office in France. Hello, Lionel.
Hello, Stefan.
We have quite a bit to cover in the next hour, so I'll try to keep my introductory remarks quite brief and just cover the essentials and just perhaps mention a few administrative things. I also see there's still quite a few people logging in. I should mention that this webinar will be recorded and after the webinar posted to our YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com/ConradiScience. Also, we'd like to encourage you to submit the questions via the chat panel, or you can also email them to us. We may not have time to answer them live in the webinar, but we'll definitely get back to you afterwards, and we will also summarize the questions and post the answers on our LinkedIn, on our site on LinkedIn. Also, more generally, I should mention that you can download a trial of BayesiaLab from our website. You'll also find quite a number of white papers and tutorials on the website. You can find them at conradiscience.com and Bayesia.com. So, quick overview. We are already in the middle of the introduction. I'll just briefly touch on the motivation and the objectives of this webinar today. And really, for the most part, it will be Lionel talking about BEKEE, which is the acronym for our Bayesia Expert Knowledge Elicitation Environment. And so the idea is really to demonstrate, and most importantly, demonstrate this interactively. For that purpose, you will actually see a dialogue going back and forth between Lionel's screen and my screen, showing me as the user responding to queries posted by Lionel, but you can also participate in this interactively. Many of you have already signed up. For those who haven't, while we go through the introductory remarks, you may want to log in the background, https://www.BayesiaLab.com/expertise2. That is the site where you can register and subsequently log in to participate in this knowledge elicitation session. So I've also put in this URL into the chat panel, so you can just pick it up from there, click on it, and register to participate. So you already know our work is all about Bayesian networks. We really see Bayesian networks as a very important new paradigm. It's really actually not all that new. Professor Judea Pearl at UCLA introduced it as a new form of knowledge representation in the mid-1980s. And since then, really a very large body of work has emerged that really covers all aspects, all computational and mathematical aspects of Bayesian networks. So on our website, you'll find many references to books and papers on that topic, and would very much encourage you to read more. So the way we use Bayesian networks is really, it fills many roles. We really see Bayesian networks as a form of a universal research framework. You see here an example of a Bayesian network in the middle of the circle here. And there are really two ways of how Bayesian networks can be generated. And in many of the previous webinars, we have talked about, let me get the slide straight here. We've talked a lot about knowledge discovery through data mining. And that's where we showed our software how we can learn from observations from lots of data to automatically create Bayesian networks, which we can then subsequently analyze and use for decision support, for analytics, simulation, diagnosis, optimization. An example of optimization was our webinar, for instance, that we had a few weeks ago about marketing mix modeling. That was a typical example of knowledge discovery followed by optimization. However, today we take a quite different approach, because today we look at this at a scenario where we actually don't have data, and which is a common problem, even though we talk a lot these days about big data and all these observations that we have, web data, click data, what have you. A lot of the problem domains we face in the real world, we may have very, very few observations, no data whatsoever, but rather we must rely on expert opinion if we want to make judgment, perform inference, etc. Now, the way we are going to do this is we want to not just go from expert judgment to inference, but rather we want to very formally capture the knowledge that experts have. We want to elicit their knowledge, estimate a Bayesian network from that in order to then formally perform inference. So perhaps just a quick word for those who've heard about Bayesian networks or who are hearing about Bayesian networks for the first time today. And again, I want to keep things very brief and refer you to our white papers and some of the other literature posted on our website. Just really briefly, in a Bayesian network, you have nodes and you have arcs. And these are really all the components. A node represents a variable of interest, which could be something like sales or price or temperature, a physical property, whatever is in the domain you want to study. And then you have arcs, which appear like arrows here in this chart. And these arcs represent probabilistic relationships. It shows us how the nodes and the states of the nodes are related to each other. Between nodes and arcs, we have a complete representation of our domain. And in the past, we used such representations to describe financial markets or marketing models, etc. Today, we'll take you in quite a different direction. And of course, all of this is rooted in our BayesiaLab software. As of this week, we actually have BayesiaLab 5.07, and that's the platform that allows us to integrate learning, editing, performing inference, analysis, simulation, optimization, all within the same user-friendly platform, which is, of course, available for Windows, Mac, Linux, etc. So this will be at the very core of the application that we showed today, but the whole purpose of today is extending and going beyond and very, very formally eliciting knowledge that we can then utilize within BayesiaLab. So, as Bayesia is a French company, what would be a better example to illustrate our software than wine? World-renowned for its fantastic wines. I'm sure Lionel will be very happy to talk about France in this context and illustrate BayesiaLab with the fabulous French wines. More specifically, we want to talk about wine and food pairings. We want to talk about how can certain wines, white, reds, with different attributes relate to certain food attributes. And again, this is perhaps not something that can be directly measured, but rather in this fairly complicated and intricate domain, we want to use experts' knowledge, or in our example today, anybody's knowledge, to elicit what are the relationships and how can we perhaps then use the knowledge we have gathered from everyone's opinion about how food and wine goes together, how we can then use that to perform inference and to then use this, if you almost as, if you will, as a recommender system. So, having said that, I would now like to turn things over to Lionel and make him the presenter.
So thanks, Stefan, for this introduction. So as Stefan said, we are just going to show today how our Bayesian expert knowledge elicitation environment works. And so I will, again, as usual, use my favorite software for presentation, Prezi. And just to really illustrate what is a workflow in order to do this brainstorming session, and then we will use this wine example just to play with the tool. So Stefan will play, and the user who are already connected to the website will be able to play with us. But let's start with this presentation. So the idea is, as Stefan said, when we don't have enough data in order to use BayesiaLab for data mining, and this is usually the case when we are dealing with strategic question for the company. For example, what are the key drivers for improving the performance of agency, for example, or we are dealing with B2B companies, and so they have big customers but not a lot, and then it's not enough. We don't have enough data in order to make some kind of drivers analysis, and then we will need to use the knowledge of our experts, and we will try to convert their tacit knowledge that they have gathered through their experience, and we will just try to make this tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. And for that, the best way to do that is just to use Bayesian Network, because the Bayesian Network is a graphical tool, as Stefan said, so we have nodes and links, and this is really something that is not difficult to understand. You don't need to have any PhD in statistics in order to do these brainstorming sessions. You just have to have a kind of a small training before the training session, before the brainstorming session, and then anybody can participate to this brainstorming session. So this is really something really powerful. And then, so the first thing before doing this brainstorming session is to have a clear objective. And because this is something that is quite costly, we are organizing brainstorming sessions that that last during 3 days, during in-house sessions. So it's 3 days where all the experts are together, and then more days to make the follow-up and so on. So it's not something you can just do like that. So this is, yes, there is some kind of budget there, and then you have really to have a clear idea of what question you want to answer. And this question, this objective, will be our target node. And this target node can be something like the quality of a product or quality of a company, the purchase intent. What, in order to be able to answer what is driving the purchase intent of our product. It can be the performance of agencies and so on. Okay, so once we have this target, this objective clearly defined, then we need to identify what are the conceptual dimensions that are linked to this target. And that means, for example, usually when you are talking about performance, for example, for one company, then you will have a set of variables that are directly connected to this target and are linked to the human resources, for example, or to the management or production and so on. And then for all the target you can have, you first have to think about what are the main conceptual dimensions that will have an impact on this question. And then once you have this conceptual dimension, so it's a high level, then you will need to define your group of experts. And you will, for example, select 2 or 3 experts per conceptual dimension, just enough in order to have some kind of debates between the experts, but not too much, because if you have 4 or 5 or 6 experts for the same area, then you will lose a lot of time, with discussion and so on, and then it will not be productive. So you need just to cover all these dimensions and have, yes, a small redundancy. And you also have to keep in mind that when you are working with multinational companies, then you also need to have experts coming from the different geographical zones, especially when you know that you can have differences between these zones. So just have in mind, cover all these dimensions, small redundancy, geographical zones, and so at the end of the day, we end up with usually groups of between 10 and 20 experts. Then the first thing, so as I said, during these 3 days, so we start with 3-day session, and at the very beginning of the session, after a small training where we are just introducing what is Bayesian network, what is a probability, and then what is a conditional probability, then we are starting by building one network per conceptual dimension. So the first step, as I said, is defining the target variable, then the conceptual dimension, and for each conceptual dimension, then you have to make a list of all the variables that define this conceptual dimension. So in this example here, I'm just focusing on one conceptual dimension, which is human resource. And in this human resource, so we had a lot of discussion there, each expert coming with this set of variables, and the first thing is to just select, usually we are trying to work with 6 or 8 or 9 variables per conceptual dimension, just to be able to do something interesting in 3 days. And then once we have this subset of variables, then we begin to define the structure of this subnetwork. And for example, here in this human resource subnetwork, we have the performance of the team, which is a kind of sub-target. And it's directly linked. Our expert here said, well, this is directly dependent from the team satisfaction, from the manager quality, and from the mobility of the personnel. And we also have the time spent with the team and the internal relations. So everything is there, and the structure is built by just, during this in-house session. So everybody is participating to the description of this structure. And this is really one important step there. We really need to agree on the structure. So it's important, but it's not the most difficult part. Because usually when you are talking with experts, so they will not have a lot of differences there. The most complicated part is this one, the quantitative part, when we will populate our Bayesian network with probabilities. And this is also the most interesting one, because, as I said before, usually the experts usually agree on the structure, because this is a kind of qualitative knowledge, but this is really important when they first need to quantify their knowledge, so they can really bring their expertise there. And then, as I said, they will have, for each probability distribution defined by a conditional probability distribution, they will have to give their belief on the probability distribution. And this is kind of tedious task, as we will see. And we also have some biases there that we have to take into account. And this is really important to have that in mind. We have, cognitive biases, like I just have here 4 cognitive biases, like plausibility, the control, the availability, the anchoring, and I will just describe perhaps the control biases, which is when you ask, for example, you are doing a brainstorming session with managers, and you are, doing the probability elicitation for the HR dimension, and then you say, hey, what is the probability of having good managers? And as you are working with managers, they will have, they will say, okay, oh, very high, because we are managers, so we are good, so we will overestimate this probability. This is the same thing when you say, hey, what is the probability of when you will recruit somebody, you will make a good recruitment? And usually people will overestimate that because they are doing this task. So in this case, in order to try to reduce this bias, you just have to say, hey, let's imagine that you are doing 100 recruitments, and then over these 100 recruitments, how many will succeed? And in this case, so going from just trying to turn this problem into a frequentist problem, then it's much easier to prevent this cognitive bias. Another bias is the group bias, where you will have, if somebody is just saying, hey, for me it's 90%, then most of the people will just follow this, even if they are not doing it on purpose, but it's just, yes, a kind of human bias there. You will just, yes, hunker with respect to this expertise. And it's even worse when this is a boss who is saying something. So we also have some kind of emotional biases, and we also have, the last one is a facilitator bias. When, for example, I'm using BayesiaLab in order to make this probability elicitation process, and if I don't have any tools, then I will listen to everybody, and at the end of the day I have to enter the probabilities. And if I don't, if I'm not careful enough, then I will probably just focus on someone with which I have the more, I'm close to, and then I will just go towards the charismatic experts. And then, having all these biases in mind, we have designed the Bayesia expert knowledge elicitation environment just to try to reduce all these biases, even if we will not be able to remove all these biases. For example, the availability biases and so on, will just be able to, yes, to warn the expert just to be aware of these biases. So it will be more through training, and we will just try to tell them, yes, think about frequency and so on, in order to try to really reduce the trap of these biases. So just now, BEKEE, so as you can see, it's a web-based solution. So it's a secure web-based solution, and we have two ways to use it. The first one, it's the interactive one. So this is the tool we are using when we are doing the first 3-day session. So we have all the experts in the same room. We can also have some that are not there, but they are participating remotely, but most of the group is in the same room, and we will, during this 3-day, build the structure of all the networks. So this is the first task we have to do, and then once we have the structure, we will use this tool in order to populate the probability distribution. Okay, so we will see how it works, and with this tool, we will, I will go into BayesiaLab, and for each line of the conditional probability distribution, I will just go there and post the question. Okay, so I will send the question to the server, and then all the experts will be able to get this question with on their laptop and be able to give their expertise. And this is exactly what we are going to do in a few minutes. The batch one, as the name indicates, it's something that you will be able to do that, at your own pace. So you are alone. The session is over. The interactive session is over. We probably did not have the time to fill all the conditional probability distribution, or we just want to make some follow-up just in order to be sure that everything is clear, and we want to reduce, to remove all the warnings we can have, because we have some divergence between experts' knowledge, and then we will use this in order to just polish the network, and then we will just post the full network to the website, and each expert will be able to use this web interface, as I said, at his own pace, in order to either to verify what he previously said, or just to complete the elicitation process. And if we have some time, we will also see how it works. But let's start, so as we said, with BayesiaLab 507, so the very last release. And we will use this very small example. So it's an oversimplified example, and I will also show you the full one. And we will use the Bayesia expert knowledge elicitation environment. So this window in the right is the window you have when you first connect to the website. So if you are not registered, you still have 1 or 2 minutes to do that. Once you are registered, you just have to subscribe. So you have to go to your sessions and subscribe to the session called webinar with the W in uppercase. So let's start. So as I said, so I'm here with BayesiaLab. So we just have to, we have our 5 nodes. So we just have to suppose that now the structure has been built. So all the experts have discussed and have found that in order to define what is the wine color, so between red and white, we don't have rosé here, it depends directly from the main component of the meal, depend on the sauce. And for the wine body, it will depend on the meal flavor and on the sauce. So this is the knowledge, a qualitative knowledge of our experts. And we will not use BEKEE right now in order to make the priority elicitation of the root nodes. We will just use it today for trying to fill what will be the priority distribution of the wine color given main component and given sauce. So just here, to allow you, the main component has 3 states. So the first one is meat, the second one is fish, and the third one is poultry. So this is the priority distribution, so we don't care about this one. And we have more states for the sauce. We can have spicy sauce, sweet sauce, cream sauce, tomato sauce, or no sauce at all. Okay. And the very last one, the meal flavor, but we will not make any priority elicitation for this one, is delicate, average, and strong. So we have these 3 characteristics of the meal, and the wine color is red or white. We remove this. We have the wine body, which can be light, medium, and full. So as you can see, we have big conditional probability table here, and in this one we still have some probability to define. And we will just make we'll make 4 elicitation of probabilities during this session. So perhaps, Stefan, I will make you presenter just to show how people can connect, if you are still there.
Yep, yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to log in.
So you should be the presenter now.
Okay. Let me just adjust my screen here. Okay, so I will now log in. I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yeah, yes, we see it. At least I see it.
Okay. So I have logged in now. Hold on.
So now all the experts of the session have to do that, and I have to click on My Sessions.
Okay, I go to My Sessions. Here we go.
And then you have to click on Subscribe. Just to subscribe to the session, not this one, yes. Subscribe, and the name of the session is Webinar. Okay. So by doing that, you are just sending a request to the manager, and I am the manager, so I'm using my website in order to validate your subscription. So I'm going there, and I have a lot of experts there. I will just do that now. Okay. Subscription. So now if you refresh your web page, you should be able to see that this is in standby. Okay. I'm just checking if nobody else is coming. And so now you should press, you should wait. So perhaps I will just take again the control. So this is the steps that all the experts are doing. And so I show my screen again. So now all the experts have subscribed to this session, so we are able to make the priority elicitation. So I will go directly to the wine color node. I'm double clicking on this node. Sorry, first of all, I need to go there, edit the experts, and I need to open this interactive session. So I will just go there, open interactive session, set the name of this session, webinar, and press OK. And here we have all the experts that are connected today. So we can see Stefan here, I'm there. Let's try if it works. So we are trying to make the priority elicitation for this conditional probability distribution. So the question will be, what is for you the probability to recommend a red wine when you have a spicy sauce with meat? So I'm just here clicking on this distribution and post the assessment. Okay, so I have and now, as I am the facilitator, I have this listener, and then I will be able to see if the experts have sent their answer. So I will give you again, Stefan, make you the presenter. And then I think you should have something on your screen now. So yes, press on context just to see the conditions. So in this upper part, the context, you have, this is for the expert to see exactly what is the question. So the question is, you have a spicy sauce with meat, and then you will have to use the sliders in order to give your opinion with respect to red or white one. So for you, given that you have meat with a spicy sauce, what is the priority to recommend a red wine or a white one? So you just have to use a slider there.
Okay, so
to give your German expertise.
Yes, I'm not particularly a great wine drinker, but I do love my food. I'm a meat and potato kind of person. So let me think about this. This reminds me of perhaps a filet mignon with a peppercorn sauce. So that would be an example of a spicy meat dish. So I would think, using my limited wine knowledge, I would think that a red wine goes with this quite well. So I'll put this at 90, but my confidence, perhaps I just put it 75. And sometimes it's helpful just to add a comment or mention an example. So the facilitator can ultimately see what I was thinking or in what context I was referring to.
And it's also really useful when you're at the end of the day, when you have your final network, you can then have a kind of documentation of with these commands, which is really useful for having better knowledge. So each time somebody, so I will take again the control. As you can see now, each time one expert is validating his vote, you don't hear that, but I have a ping, and then I can see that I have 5 out of 8 experts that have already sent their answer. So the first one was Tommaso, and I am not surprised about that from this Italian guy. And otherwise, we are just waiting for Charles and Jan-Luz. But well, we will not. Perhaps Charles has a problem, and Jan-Luz, I don't know. So let's say that we are validating that. So I'm just clicking on OK. And now we have all the feedback of everybody. So I just press on red here, and I'm able to sort all these expertise. And as you can see, we have a huge difference between Kiran and Tommaso. So Tommaso, for him, it's 95%, and for Kiran, it's 38%. So usually when we have all the picture of all the experts, because, for example, when I click there, we can see Stefan here, and then during the session, I'm usually clicking on the lowest one and the highest one, and then they can see their picture there, and they know that this is a time for them to make a debate, to share their knowledge. And then, so we will not be able to do that right now for obvious reason, but yes, we'll perhaps read the comment of Kiran, which is quite surprising here. White wine is sweeter. Okay, why not? So we also have the time the expert spent in order to send his expertise. So it's just a measure like that. And so we have the confidence level there. So given all this expertise, so yes, in a classical session, we will make these two arg in front of Tommaso and Brian, for example, and Stefan, just in order to see if we can gather some new knowledge. We are not seeking, consensus. We are just using that in order to be sure that we have all the useful knowledge. So, for example, here we can see perhaps there is a cultural difference. So perhaps we need to make one network for India and another one for Europe or the US. So this is something we will be able to do very easily. So let's accept this. And as you can see, we have some icon there with the probability. So the final probability distribution, we have used the confidence degree of each expert, and then the consensual probability distribution is 71/28. And we have this icon there that is, that reflects the differences between the experts. So when everybody is agreeing, there is no icon at all. And here it's quite dark, so we know that there is a high discrepancy between the experts. So we see 38 at the mean and 95 at the max. In this case, for example, let's suppose that Kiran mix, sometimes it can happen, you have somebody who just say, okay, I wanted to say white and I said red, or the reverse. So we can also say, okay, let's try it again, and I can make a second round. So I pause the assessment, and now all of you should be able to have the question again. So I will give again the control to Stefan, just for him to share his screen.
And now perhaps that we have had a round of discussion, I think my confidence has increased, and my judgment still remains the same. I think there are probably cases where Kiran is right, but overall, I think the 90% judgment for red is probably still appropriate. So
okay,
with that, I validate.
And we have all the expertise. And now, so we can see that we have a new expert, Charles, who said 90/10. So we will increase a little bit this posterior probability distribution. Okay, so this is the first one. So let's do another one. Let's try sweet and fish, for example. Just do that. I'm posting the assessment. And in order to prevent any bias, now we will not show what Stefan is doing. So I will just wait for you to give me your expertise.
Okay, and I've just submitted my opinion.
Okay, so perhaps I will. Yes, we have 5. Jean-Luc now is on business. And so Kiran, perhaps 1 second more. Okay, so now in this case, so we are going from 14 for Jean-Luc to 70 for Radha. And we have just one comment from this guy, white fish with mango chutney. Okay, and so for Stefan, for example, it's 20% of red and 80% for white one. And we can see otherwise that everybody is agree except Radha here, who said 70/30. So it's kind of, perhaps it's, yes, kind of cultural thing. So let's accept that. And now we have this consensus, 21/78. So we'll do another one, poultry with sweet sauce. So again, assessment. And then you should receive this question.
Okay, just got it. And I've submitted my answer.
Okay, so we have 6 answers. So let's validate that. And we have here, we are going from 10 for Charles to 95 to Stefan. So we have very, yes, broad set of knowledge here. So in this case, yes, for a real session, we really need to discuss about that. So in this example, we will not spend more time on that, but yeah, here, let's go, accept that, and we have 61%. As you can see, it's quite dark here with this small icon. Yes, Stefan, you were about to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, for instance, perhaps this is a point where we may have thought of very different poultry. I mentioned an example. I mentioned a duck breast, where somebody else may have thought of a chicken. So which obviously are quite different in their character and nature. So this would then perhaps lead us to introduce another variable that or perhaps another state that further distinguishes this domain as we talk about poultry.
Exactly, and this is also the point, because as I said, we are building the structure because the first step is we need a structure before doing the priority elicitation, and so during the 3-day session we need to have the structure, and but we also need to make some priority elicitation exactly the way we are doing like that. So just make some samples just to be able to see if we have some kind of stupid question, you know, sometimes some states that does not make sense and do not make sense, and or like that to see that we can have some different IDs in mind, and then we will need to change either the variable name or the state, or even add some variables. Okay, so this is really a way to make some diagnosis of the quality of the structure, to do this kind of priority elicitation while everybody is in the same room. Okay, so the idea then was to just show you, as we just have 5 minutes, how this network can be used once all the priority have been set. So you can imagine here we have so this is the original network. We have 4 variables that describe the meal, and as you can see, we have, it's not duck but turkey here. We have the meal flavor gain, main component, sauce, and turkey. We have here 3 nodes in order to describe what is the characteristic of the wine. And here what is really special is we have the list of wine, so you can see it there, with Chablis, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and so on. And these wines are described with respect to their body, color, and sweetness. And by using these little nodes, these nodes are constraint nodes, we are able to match the result of this inference with a given wine. Okay, so for example here, if I just remove all these monitors and double click on wine, body, color, and sweetness, I can say, for example, what are the characteristics of a Cabernet Sauvignon? Double clicking here, so it's a red wine. And we can find Cabernet Sauvignon both dry and both medium and full for the body. With respect to Gamay, it will be medium, red, and medium and sweet for sweetness, and so on. So we do have this characteristic for the wines, and now we will use this network as a recommendation system. So in order to use it like that, I will go to inference, and we'll use the adaptive questionnaire tool. So I'm going there. And we have the target node is wine. We will just focus on this node, and we want to display 5 questions. We don't have any costs. And then by using this adaptive questionnaire, the idea is what is the best question to ask in order to reduce the uncertainty on this wine node. Okay, so the best question to ask in order to reduce the uncertainty here is the main component of the meal. So is it a meal based on meat, on fish, or on poultry? So let's suppose that we are selecting meat. So given that this is a meal with meat, then we can see that the priority of recommending a white one is really decreasing. Okay, and we are just increasing a little bit all the red wines. And now the second best question, given that we answered meat for the first one, is the sauce. What is the characteristic of the sauce? So let's suppose we will select tomato. So I'm just clicking here, and we can see that the third question is, what is a meal flavor? Is it a delicate one, average one, or a strong one? Let's suppose it's a strong one. And in that case, we can see that we will propose Burgundy or perhaps Cabernet Sauvignon, okay? Because the other one are just decreasing a little bit. So this is one way to use this system. We can make another one, just remove all the evidence here, and just try, for example, with poultry. So we can see that the priority of having a white one is increasing slightly. Let's see that we will have cream with the poultry. So now we can see that we are increasing white ones, but also some red ones. And let's say that we don't have any turkey there, so it's false. And in that case, then we have two wines with the same probability, posterior probability, which are the Chardonnay and the Gewürztraminer. So this is a way to use this kind of network, even if it's not the topic of this webinar, but just to show you how we can use this kind of network. So Stefan, I don't know if you, so we still have 5 minutes if you want to conclude.
Well, thank you very much, Lionel. I think this is exactly the kind of system that I need to have, since I love my food, but I really am not very familiar with wine. So this would be perfect for me to learn something more. Well, given the time of day, Lionel, for you, it's probably time to open a bottle of wine and enjoy
Absolutely.
the evening. For me, it's just about lunchtime. But let me switch over to my screen and just finish off with some concluding remarks. Yes. Well, first of all, Lionel, thank you. This was really quite interesting and fun, and I was glad to see that quite a few people had a chance to participate in this little exercise. Obviously, not always we have topics that are as fun as wine and food. More often, or virtually all the time, we're dealing with business questions. Many times we're dealing with much larger networks and more complicated domains, but I think this small toy problem really got the key points across. So in the last minute or two, I just want to quickly highlight a couple of upcoming events, such as our BayesiaLab training seminars. We have one coming up in Boston, June 26th through 28th. That is sold out, almost sold out. I think we can perhaps squeeze in one or two more. We have one in Toronto, Canada, July 17th through 19th. And then in conjunction with the ACM data mining camp, we have a training in Silicon Valley, October 9th through the 11th. So that is the week right before the ACM data mining camp. I mentioned earlier our BayesiaLab group on LinkedIn. We have now well over 1,000 members, so the discussions that are going on there are quite lively. Lots of interesting points raised, and as I said at the beginning, all the questions will be reposted there, and of course we'll provide the answers. Then we wouldn't be a modern business today if we didn't have a Twitter feed. You can follow us at Bayesian Network, where we typically once, twice a week, perhaps 3 times a week, post snippets about Bayesian networks, interesting things, updates on our events, etc. And then, of course, an edited recording of today's webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel, where you can go back and revisit perhaps some of the points. And to conclude, I would like to invite you all to download a trial version of BayesiaLab. As Lionel said earlier, we're now on version 5.07. Many of you will not have seen 5.07 yet. There are quite a number of interesting new features that are really worth checking out. We have our regular demo version available for download. If you join us on LinkedIn, you can also get access to a fully featured professional version, which will be valid through June 17th. So you can really get the full thing for the next couple of weeks. We have papers, tutorials, and books all posted on our websites, conradiscience.com and Bayesia.com. And of course, we'd all like to encourage you to contact us with questions. There are so many things to share about Bayesian networks and BayesiaLab, but many of those things may be specific to your particular problem domain. So we'd be very happy to engage in a dialogue about your specific application. So with that, it is 1 o'clock. I'd like to thank you all for spending an hour with us learning about Bayesian network. Thanks to Lionel for a great presentation. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon again on one of our upcoming webinars. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you.